My name is Sam Hale, and I'm an architect. Not the glamorous kind who wears black turtlenecks and gives TED Talks. I'm the kind who spent 5 years restoring an old family house with her bare hands, thinking she was building a future. That house was supposed to be my fresh start. My parents had said it was mine. A way to claim something real after a messy breakup and years of playing second fiddle to my sister Chloe. They said they wanted me to make it my own. And I believed them. God help me. I believed them. I designed the renovation from the ground up, reimagined every wall, every beam, every window to catch morning light just right. I poured my savings into it, skipped vacations, took freelance projects at 3 a.m. I thought maybe, just maybe, this was the moment they'd finally see me. They saw me. All right. As free labor, what I didn't realize was that the dream they dangled in front of me was never meant for me. It was bait. And once I built it, once it stood shining and complete, they handed it off to Chloe as a wedding gift. But here's the thing about architects. We understand structures. We know how things fall. And more importantly, we know how to plan for that moment. What they didn't know was that I had protected every blueprint, every contract, every financial thread. They gave away my dream. So I took everything else. It started with a Sunday lunch. The kind where the table is too formal for what we're eating. My mom poured Chardonnay like it was her 6th love language. My dad unfolded some old floor plans and laid them across the dining table, like it was just another casual idea. We were talking about the old house. The one I grew up in. The one I used to hide in after piano lessons. Before Chloe came along and made me invisible. It needed work. They said. It was time to bring it back to life. And they wanted me to be the one to do it. At first, I thought it was a joke. I actually laughed. But they were serious. Mom tilted her glass toward me and said this could be my project. My name on the plans, my touch on our legacy. I felt this strange warmth in my chest. Hope. That dangerous little thing. I remember Chloe was barely listening, tapping away on her phone, occasionally throwing in a vague, "That sounds cute," when Mom looked her way. She didn't care about the house. Not then. Not like I did. Dad said they'd fund part of the renovation. But I'd need to contribute too. It would give me more ownership, he said. I agreed. Too quickly. I didn't even flinch. I wanted to prove something. Not just to them, but to myself. I spent months redrawing the structure. I kept the original woodwork where I could. Reworked the layout to create flow. And added a modern studio wing that would become my workspace. I imagined waking up there. Hosting clients there. Building my name. Finally. On my terms. Miles, my ex, was the only one who looked concerned. He called me after I sent over some contracts for his firm to review. We hadn't spoken much since we ended things. But I trusted him. Still do. He told me to be careful. To not assume anything. That verbal promises meant nothing without paper to back them up. I brushed him off. Told him they were my parents. Not strangers. He offered to add protective clauses anyway. Just in case. I should have known then. The way his voice softened on the phone. The way he paused before hanging up. Like he wanted to say more but didn't know how. I was too focused on blueprints to see the cracks. During construction, I'd send progress photos to the family group chat. No one responded. Chloe only came by when she needed something. Usually money. Mom popped in once. Wine in hand. Cooing over my choice of tile, like she'd picked it herself. Dad told me I was doing great work. He even patted my shoulder once. I clung to that gesture longer than I should have. By the time the final fixtures were in, the house didn't just look like mine. It felt like mine. I'd filled every inch with intention. With vision. With faith that this, finally, was the moment I stopped being the family disappointment. I was wrong. The party was supposed to be a celebration. A thank you gathering. My parents called it. They invited family friends. Some clients from my dad's firm. A couple of people from Mom's charity board. Everyone dressed like it was a wedding. I figured maybe they were just proud. I wore a navy wrap dress I hadn't pulled out in years. Jenna helped me do my hair and kept saying this was my moment. I wanted to believe her. I kept checking the lighting through the south-facing windows I'd designed. The whole space glowed. Just like I planned. Guests circled through the house, admiring everything. The curved staircase. The built-in shelves. The hidden storage I worked into the office wall. Mom was all smiles, taking credit for my design decisions like they were joint ideas. I let her. I thought maybe this was her way of finally accepting me. Dad clinked his glass, calling everyone's attention. He stood near the kitchen island, where I had chosen each pendant light by hand. Chloe stood beside him in an ivory silk jumpsuit, radiant and bored. I stepped closer, expecting him to say something about my work. Something about me. He began by thanking everyone for coming, for supporting the family. Then he turned to me, called me their talented daughter, said I had built something truly spectacular. I felt my heart rise in my chest. Maybe this was the moment. Maybe I hadn't been foolish after all. Then he kept going. He said this home wasn't just a structure. It was a legacy. A place for the next generation? And that's why. He said. They were thrilled to announce that this space, this beautiful, thoughtfully designed home would belong to Chloe and Ethan. As an engagement gift, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Applause erupted. Chloe squealed and hugged him. Mom raised her glass and beamed like she'd just announced the cure for cancer. I stood there, frozen, staring at the people who had just stolen everything I built. I heard Jenna whisper my name, but it sounded far away. Chloe bounced over to me, flung her arms around my neck, and said something about how perfect everything was. I didn't hug her back. My hands were limp at my sides. Perfect? That word echoed through my skull, like a bell struck too hard. I stayed at the party, at least in body. People kept smiling at me, shaking my hand, congratulating me for a home that apparently wasn't mine. I smiled back, like I was still part of the family, like I hadn't just been erased in front of everyone. Jenna stayed close. She kept watching me like I might tip over. I clutched a half-full glass of champagne for an hour but never drank it. The bubbles died in the glass, the same way the joy drained from my face. Mom found me near the staircase. She leaned in with that tight, social smile of hers and said, I shouldn't make a scene. That Chloe needed the space more than I did. I was still figuring things out. Still drifting. I stared at her, speechless. She patted my arm and drifted off to talk to someone from the tennis club. Jenna pulled me aside. Her eyes were sharp. They don't see you, Sam. They see what you can do for them. That's all they've ever seen. I wanted to cry. I wanted to scream. But mostly, I wanted to disappear. Instead, I nodded, smiled like I was fine, and told her I just needed air. What I needed was something else entirely, but I hadn't realized it yet. I stepped out onto the back deck. The one I'd designed for morning coffee and quiet thinking. The sky was fading into a soft lavender. Inside, I could still hear laughter. My laughter. Except it wasn't mine. It was Chloe's. I pulled out my phone with fingers that barely felt real. My body was moving, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. I found Miles's number. I didn't even hesitate. I just hit call. He picked up on the second ring. The sound of his voice nearly cracked me open. What's wrong? They gave it to her. I said it flat. Like a fact. Like a weather report. It's hers now. The house. All of it. They announced it in front of everyone. There was silence on the line. And then a slow, measured breath. Did you sign anything? No. Not yet. Good. Don't. I sat down hard on the wooden bench. My legs weren't working the way they should. I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere outside. Miles's voice came through again. Steadier now. Do you remember the clause I added? The ownership lock. You told me not to bother. That your parents would never. I remember. You still control the deed. Your name's on the permits. The accounts. The architectural rights. It's all still yours. They can throw parties. But they can't take what's not legally theirs. I let that sink in. Let the truth sit beside the pain. They didn't just lie to me. They used me. But I had built this house. Not just with wood and steel, but with structure. I had protected myself without even realizing it. What do I do now? Miles paused again. That depends. Are you ready to stand up to them? I looked back through the glass at my parents. Smiling like this was just another successful social event. At Chloe. Waving her hands in the air like this house had always belonged to her. Yes. I said it slowly. Deliberately. I'm ready. The next morning, I made calls that felt like breaking bones. I froze the construction loan. Canceled the custom window orders. Told the contractors no more payments would be coming until the ownership issues were settled. The phone started ringing. Mom's voice was sharp and frantic when she called. Dad showed up at my apartment. Trying to explain. To negotiate. To guilt me. Chloe's texts filled my inbox, full of shocked disbelief and veiled threats. But I was calm. Too calm for them. I knew the rules better than anyone. Every missed payment, every canceled contract was a domino falling. They thought they could steamroll me because I was the good daughter, the one who kept quiet, who did her work without complaint. They forgot I was the architect. I built the foundation and I knew exactly where the weak points were. I told Dad I was done playing nice. That Chloe wasn't getting a free ride on my back anymore. That if they wanted this fight, I was ready. I wasn't just defending a house. I was defending my worth. I watched their perfect plans start to unravel with a quiet satisfaction. Justice wasn't loud. It was deliberate. It was cold. And it was coming. One evening, as I was clearing out my dad's old study to make room for the new plans, I found something I wasn't supposed to see. Tucked inside a dusty architecture magazine from the early 90s was a faded photograph. The edges were yellowed and creased. But the image was sharp, a woman with Chloe's exact smile. Her arm draped casually around a younger version of my father. On the back, in faded ink, someone had written, "We both made our choices." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I stared at the photo, feeling the weight of years and secrets pressing down. This wasn't just a random picture. It was proof. Proof that Chloe's story wasn't what I'd been told. That maybe, just maybe, the sister I'd grown up competing with was a stranger to the family in ways I hadn't imagined. I reached out to Jenna, my closest friend and confidant. She did some digging and pulled up old court records that confirmed my worst suspicions. My father had been involved in a paternity suit right around the time Chloe was born. The case was sealed, hidden away from the family and public eyes. I sat back and tried to breathe through the shock. All the years of feeling second best, invisible, misunderstood, suddenly clicked into place. Chloe wasn't my father's child. She was the product of a secret kept for decades. The foundation I'd thought I was building on was cracking beneath me. But instead of breaking, something inside me hardened. The truth had come out. And now, it was time to face it. The moment I sent the DNA results to my parents and Chloe, everything changed. My mother's carefully constructed world cracked wide open. I remember the day she confronted me at a busy restaurant, her voice trembling with anger and fear as she slammed those papers down on the table. She accused me of spreading lies, destroying the family's reputation, but I was done pretending. I told her she was the one who bought silence and shaped deceit. That for years, I had been punished not for failing, but for being the real daughter. The tension exploded. She slapped me in front of strangers, drawing stares and forcing us out. But the damage was done. I had exposed the truth, No one dared speak aloud. From that moment, the story spilled into the public. Chloe's perfect image began to unravel. My father's guilt was palpable. My mother retreated behind a mask of excuses and shame. I stood my ground, silent but unyielding. This wasn't just about blood or inheritance anymore. It was about justice, about reclaiming the family I deserved, even if that meant burning the bridges behind me. Chloe's world started crumbling, and with it, my own tangled feelings. One night, she snapped. I was at my apartment when I got the call. She was setting fire to the house. I didn't panic. Instead, I grabbed my phone and started recording. There was no point in hiding the truth now. I watched through the screen as she stood inside the living room, flames licking the edges of the curtains I had carefully chosen. Her eyes were wild, filled with a rage I barely recognized. She screamed about her life being a lie, about how none of it was hers. The fire alarm blared. Neighbors called 911. Firefighters arrived and controlled the blaze. But the damage was done. The media caught wind almost immediately, and the story exploded. Family drama, broken homes, political scandal. Chloe's carefully curated image shattered before my eyes. Yet, as I watched her break down, I felt a strange calm. I didn't feel victorious. I felt exhausted. This wasn't the triumph I imagined. It was messy, painful, and far from over. Chloe's calls and texts flooded me with anger and accusations, but I let them go unanswered. This wasn't about spite anymore. It was about the truth finally catching up. After everything had fallen apart, I met Margaret. She was the woman in the photo the mother Chloe never talked about. Sitting across from her in a quiet cafe, I saw a reflection of what I could have become. Margaret spoke softly about choices made under pressure, about survival and sacrifice. She didn't excuse the past, but she showed me a different kind of strength, the kind that comes from acceptance. She handed me a worn envelope filled with photographs of Chloe's childhood, taken from afar, hidden moments stitched together like a patchwork. It was a glimpse into a life lived in shadows. Margaret warned me that burning everything down was easy, but living with the ashes was a different challenge altogether. Her words echoed in my mind long after we parted. For the first time, I saw that revenge wasn't the only path. Healing required more courage to rebuild and forgive. Not for them, but for myself. The fallout was swift and merciless. The bank moved in, foreclosing on the house that once symbolized everything I'd worked for. But I wasn't defeated. Quietly, I bought it back through a blind trust, a move that stung like salt in old wounds. My father showed up at my office one day, older and weighed down by regret. He asked for forgiveness, for a chance to make things right. But the years of lies and silence had built walls too high to climb. I told him I wasn't interested in their version of family anymore. The version where I was always the disappointment, the outsider looking in. I wanted something real, something I could control. Mom checked herself into a private facility for exhaustion. Chloe disappeared, rumors swirling about where she'd gone. The house sat empty, scarred, but standing a testament to all that was lost. In that quiet, I found clarity. Sometimes winning means walking away. Sometimes it means taking back what's yours on your own terms. The house that once held so much pain slowly transformed into something new. I decided to turn it into a community center, a place for healing, for second chances. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about purpose. Chloe reached out weeks later with a letter. She didn't ask for forgiveness, but she admitted she was finally seeing the truth. She was starting to rebuild her own life, away from lies and shadows. Margaret kept in touch, offering support as we both worked through our pasts. Sometimes healing comes from unexpected places, even from the people who hurt you most. I threw myself into new projects, designing spaces that nurtured hope instead of hiding secrets. Jenna and Miles stood by me, steady and unwavering. Together, We built more than structures. We built trust. Every blueprint I drew carried a new meaning, not just walls and windows, but the foundation of something stronger. This was the beginning of my real legacy. Years have passed since those dark days. I now lead my own architectural firm, surrounded by people who believe in me, Jenna, Miles, and a team built on trust. We design more than buildings. We design futures. I keep Chloe's letter tucked away in my desk, a reminder of a journey that changed us both. Some bridges are too damaged to cross. And that's okay. Healing isn't always about forgiveness. Sometimes it's about finding peace. On my desk lies a fresh blueprint, the first line of a new project. A project born not from pain, but from strength and clarity. I smile, knowing this time I build on my own foundation. Because real power isn't about approval or revenge. It's about standing tall on what you create, ready for whatever comes next.